afternoon, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Read Me Live. I am your host, Sharifa Hardy, and we have an incredible show for you today. You know, I love to learn and I love to share what I learn with you. Today's guest, Rachel Radway, is going to discuss embracing change and finding purpose. Good afternoon, Rachel. How are you?
I am fine, thank you, Sharifa. How are you?
I'm excited. I'm excited to meet you. I love your background, especially the hand. I love that hand.
It is that is one of my favorite things in this room. So it's known sometimes as a Hamza and
Okay.
sometimes as a hand of Fatima, and
Okay.
it is a sign of protection against the evil eye. And
Okay.
I think of it as the universe has got my back. I actually have a tattoo of it on my back.
I love it. I love it. And the universe definitely has your back. I mean, I just think, in addition to the hand, uh, the room is just so zenful. It's so peaceful. I could meditate my life away in a room like that.
Oh, thank you. I am definitely a nester. I actually just moved into this place about a month and a half ago,
Oh, wow.
and I was joking with some friends of mine because I need my place to be all settled before my brain can be settled. And so the first thing I did was unpack this room, and it was ready for me to get to work and do podcasts and other things within less than 48 hours of my move because I need it to be zen and peaceful.
Well, hey, mission accomplished. That's the only thing that I can say. Mission accomplished. But I'm the same way. If my environment is not the way I is not conducive for me to work, I will not be able to work. But it just goes back to that whole thing of as within, so without. And I always tell my kids, tell my nephews, when I look at their room, when your room is a mess, that tells me your mind is a mess. So I need you to clean this room.
I do think everyone is a little different. This is one of the things that I focus on. So, my field of expertise, one of them is neurodiversity and neurodivergence, and so there are people who can function perfectly well in a messy room.
Mhm.
I'm not one of them.
Okay.
So I think we're all wired a little bit differently and need different, need a different kind of environment to really be able to be at peace. For
Yes.
me, can't have a mess surrounding me.
No. But see, another thing with me is I also have, certain guidelines.
Mhm.
I know people are different, that kind of thing. But and I also feel that bedrooms are a sacred space. So if that person's bedroom is messy, that's their personal space. That's their choice. Maybe that's how they do things. But I cannot stand a unclean bathroom and an unclean kitchen. Like, to me, those are I have done it before. Like, if I go to
Mhm.
someone's house and they're like, "Oh, you want something to eat?" and their kitchen is not clean, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm with you. I know, I feel the same way.
I don't know how we got on kitchens and cleaning, but I always tell people I have absolutely no idea what's going to come out my mouth. Only the good Lord knows, because this could go in any direction. So let's take this direction back to you, Rachel. Tell us about embracing change and finding purpose.
So I'm a little bit surprised by the topic actually, because that's not what I was expecting us to talk about.
Okay, well, what were we talking about today?
So so this is real live TV. So, we were, I thought we were gonna talk about, highly sensitive and neurodivergent people and the strengths and challenges that we have when we're wired differently. And my
No, we can't talk about that, Rachel. No, I'm just teasing you. I'm teasing you, and I love your honesty. She's like, Sharifa, you messed up. You know what this is? And let me tell you, I'm gonna blame it on chat, right? Because chat does all the descriptions. So what I do is I'll copy and paste all the information from the website, put it into
Mhm.
chat GPT, and they
Uh-huh.
come up with these little unique, little cute titles. So that
Okay.
all I have to do is read, okay, Rachel Radway on embracing change and finding purpose, right? And if nobody corrects me, because sometimes people will, I had one guest, I had created a title for her, and she says that she used to be Mary Magdalene in a different life. And In this life, she's, I guess, the reincarnation of Mary Magdalene. So she wanted that in her title so everybody knows that she's Mary Magdalene. So, hey, we can talk about whatever you want to talk about, Rachel. I don't even know what we're supposed to be talking about. I just made something up.
Totally fine. I love it. And I'm glad that you don't mind me pivoting a little bit. I'm happy to talk about embracing change. I just wasn't prepared for it. But there you go. There's change in action, right?
Yes.
So what I do, so I'm a leadership and executive coach, and I have a background of more than 25 years of experience in the corporate world in lots of different industries and different roles. And a few years ago, I went and I got my coaching certification and training. And I started out working with women leaders, and I use the term leader fairly broadly. At the beginning, it was people who specifically had a leadership role and a leadership title. But I think of leader as anyone who is bringing about change, to go back to your topic, and has a vision for the way they want things to change. And may or may not have specific people, reporting to them.
Right.
One of the things that I focused on initially in my business was leaders who identify as highly sensitive or don't necessarily identify that way, but have certain traits. When I say don't necessarily identify that way, one of the things that I learned a few decades ago, but is still not necessarily common knowledge, is there is a personality type called a highly sensitive person. There was a psychologist she's still around, a psychologist named Elaine Aron, who wrote a book in 1997 called The Highly Sensitive Person.
That's me. It's about me. The book is about me. I know.
It's absolutely about you. It's about me too. And one of the things that I hadn't known before I read that book is that I'm not alone and you're not alone, because a lot of us thought we were. Right. And a lot of us grew up knowing that we were a little bit different, knowing that we were picking up things that other people around us weren't picking up, and often getting negative messages for that. Right. Now, I know that in your family, you have other people who were readers, so there may have been more acceptance of attunement to other kinds of, of things that are going on beyond us.
Right.
In some families, that isn't there. And so when you are sensitive to things that other people aren't picking up, that can come across as really negative messaging. You're broken, you're doing things wrong, you're crazy, you're weird, you need to grow a thicker skin. There are all kinds of messages that I and a lot of other people I know grew up with because our brains were wired a little bit differently.
Okay, but Rachel, before you continue, I just want to say that you're such a sweet lady, because you just want to see the best in people. But I was so interested in speaking with you because the message that I grew up with is, Sharifa, you're just too sensitive. You're just too sensitive. And for me, that's why I was so interested in speaking with you, because I always look at a lot of things astrologically speaking, right? So I'm an Aries.
Me too.
See, we got that sensitivity.
I also have, I don't want to interrupt you, but I've been told I have more fire in my chart than anybody else and a particular astrologer had ever seen.
Well, yeah, so then we get it, right? So, and again, that's why, again, I really wanted to have this conversation, because I'm an Aries who grew up in a house with 2 Libras and an Aquarius, right? So their energy, for the listeners or the people who don't know, Rachel gets it.
I have a Libra mother, so I get it.
I have a Libra mother. We're sisters, Rachel. We feel each other's pain, right? So for me, even though my mother is the one who taught me to read, it was like her feedback was very cut and dry, very, at that time, I really considered it harsh, but for her, we just celebrated her 70th birthday. That was beautiful. And what I learned is that my mom is very blunt, She just speaks her truth. But as a child, it really hurt my feelings. And she would say, you're just too sensitive. You're just too sensitive, Sharifa, because almost everything made me cry. Everybody
Yeah.
knew I was a crier.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's,
sorry.
and no, it's so many people I talk to, especially women. And I'll say something about this trait too.
Mm-hmm.
The original research done around highly sensitive people,
Mm-hmm.
it's actually, research shows that it's about 30% of the population. So if you think about it, that's a lot of people.
It is.
And the original research showed that it was thought to be gender neutral. So that it was, male, female, non-binary, gender neutral, whatever it was. It wasn't specific. Everybody could be this. That is still thought to be true to some extent. There is some research now that suggests that the trait sits more with women than other genders. That said, many, many, many people that I talk to and work with have gotten that kind of message. Right. And when I mentioned that I work with women leaders, the last thing that a leader wants to hear is that they have something that might be considered a weakness or a flaw.
Right. Right.
So a lot of the women, and I worked with a lot of women in corporate. Now I have, a broader scope, but women in tech, for example, in leadership roles, they do not want to hear that they are highly sensitive. That's just not a term that's going to work well for them, right?
Right.
Even if they know that the trait is, resonates with them. The more I dug into this and researched and worked with clients and saw some themes coming out and looked at my own past, and then started researching for my book, which I'll talk about in a second, the more I started to learn that, first of all brains are wired differently, right? No two brains are the same. That's just a fact.
Right.
There is a book called The Brain of the Highly Sensitive Person, and it was written by a Dutch colleague of mine. Her name is Esther Bergsma. Okay. I read her book before researching for mine. And I also interviewed her for the book and talked with her for a while. And now we go back and forth and exchange ideas. And she's doing some current research on high sensitivity.
Okay.
One of the things that I learned from her book is that there have been scientific studies, fMRIs and other things that show that the brains of highly sensitive people are different from the brains that are not highly sensitive. So there are some structural differences. That is the definition of neurodivergence. It just means we differ from what's considered the typical brain. Now, I put typical brains, for those who are listening and can't see me, in air quotes, because I've never encountered a typical brain in my life. I don't know what a typical brain is. I don't know what a normal brain is, right? And that's a very abstract concept to me.
Right.
And going back to the fact that no two brains are the same, it doesn't even really make sense. That said, highly sensitive brains are different from whatever a normal brain looks like, right?
Okay.
A few years ago, I learned that I also have ADHD. Okay. Now, that means that my brain is also different from other brains in certain ways. Then I learned that I have some autistic traits, which means I actually have a condition called ADHD, a combination of ADHD and autism, which can be confusing because the two traits can be very different. And so they can both inform each other and conflict with each other. All of this is to say, I envision kind of a cosmic buffet table with all kinds of different dishes on it. There's finger food, and there's entrees, and there's salads, and there's desserts, and there's all kinds of appetizers and things that are all mixed up. And somewhere along the line, we go along and we choose the things that we want for our traits in our brain entering into this lifetime. Now, sometimes we acquire them. There are different kinds of accidents and traumas that can also change things in our brain. But many of us are just born with brains that are structurally or chemically a little bit different, and nervous systems, not just brains. And so my work is about, and my book, which is, I'll just highlight it here. It's called Perceptive: insights for leaders who feel more, process deeply, and think differently.
Mhm.
And I'm very pleased to say it's just won a couple of awards recently. So
Yay, congratulations.
thank you very much. So my work and the book are all about the strengths and the challenges
Mhm.
that brains that are wired a little bit differently have. And I call them two sides of the same coin because law of polarity, right? If you have one, you have the other. And so many of us are wired to focus on the negative and the challenges and all the things that go wrong and the things that we struggle with.
Mhm.
But it's focusing on the strengths, the gifts that we have, and we all have them,
Mhm.
that can really help us thrive, both
Mhm.
personally and professionally. So I'm going to stop talking at that point and turn it
I
back
was
over.
no. I was intrigued, and I wanted to talk about that. But this is my question. This is the question. I think I'm 49 now, and I think I've been asking this question for 50 years. So I think I was asking this question before I was born, right? And I don't mean this, in an offensive way, because sometimes I just say stuff, and I didn't mean to say it like that. So hopefully I don't offend. But why is it that we focus on the highly sensitive person? Because like with my family, when they say I'm sensitive, I'm like, but it's not that I'm sensitive, it's that you're cold. You know what I mean? So it's like, why can't we focus on the highly cold person? Or what? I guess my question is, what is the opposite then? Because I know we're saying no brain is normal, but if these 30% are highly sensitive, then what are the other 70%?
So that's a fascinating question. There is actually a website called sensitivity research. I never remember whether it's .org or .com, but if you look up sensitivity research, you'll find it.
Okay.
It's actually thought of as a continuum that is really a bell curve.
Okay.
So there's 30% in the high sensitivity part at one end of the bell curve. There's 30% in the low sensitivity end of the bell curve. And then there's 40%, which is somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
And there's a really interesting study that was done with children. And it was done somewhere in the around 2010, might have been a little bit earlier than that, a little bit later.
Mhm.
And they studied children who showed up on an assessment as highly sensitive or not highly sensitive or in the middle. And the researchers came up with terms. They called the highly sensitive kids the orchids, and the not sensitive kids on low end of the spectrum, daffodils. No, dandelion, but
Okay.
dandelions. That's right. And then in the middle, some people talk about the tulips being in the middle.
Okay.
If you think about it, dandelions are hardy and robust, and they can survive pretty much anywhere, right? I mean, you see them all over the place. They just grow wherever they want to grow.
Mhm.
Orchids are beautiful and exotic
That's
and a little bit choosier about the environment that they need to thrive. And you can use that to compare
Mhm.
highly sensitive people with not highly sensitive people. And then the tulips are just everybody in the middle. Everybody is sensitive to something,
Mhm.
but that something can differ,
Mhm.
and it may only be at certain times.
Mhm.
For women, for example, hormones can affect our levels of sensitivity to certain physical things or
Okay.
even emotional things. When you ask about why there's only a focus on the highly sensitive, why we're, pulled out, I think you could extrapolate from that question and look at so many different things in our cultures and our societies. We are the minority. Even though 30% is a lot,
Right.
it's still a minority.
Okay.
And people are often afraid of things that they don't know or they don't understand. People often use bullying or making fun of people as a way to deal with that fear of the unknown. So one of my goals is to not only raise awareness of high sensitivity,
Mhm.
but increase understanding of the fact that neurodiversity is.
Mhm.
It just is. We are all part of a neurodiverse environment. And I suspect the numbers of actual neurodivergence
Mhm.
are much, much, much higher than all of the research, all of the experts actually say. There is one statistic that I talk about in professional circles. 2/3 of neurodivergent professionals do not disclose their traits in the workplace. And they don't for a number of reasons. You can imagine in certain cases, they may not feel like there's psychological safety. It may feel unsafe to talk about who they are. They may be afraid of bullying. They may be afraid of being fired. They may be afraid of missing out opportunities like promotions or owning a certain kind of project. My mission is to help all of us understand how common these differences actually are, how invisible they are. I mean, I just did 2 workshops in the past 2 weeks that focused on the fact that neurodivergence doesn't look like what people often think it looks like. So my own example, I went to top schools and I was successful. I have held leadership roles in a number of companies in multiple countries. I've lived in 9 countries.
Oh, wow.
And I've studied 9 languages, even though I can't speak them. I have written and published an award-winning book, right? So all of that paints a picture of a successful person. Yes, I think.
Yes, it does.
And yet I spent decades behind the scenes feeling anything but successful, struggling, feeling misunderstood, feeling confused, masking, which is a concept that I didn't even understand that I was doing at the time, putting on a persona because it didn't feel safe to be 100% me, or even sometimes 50% me. So if everyone, leaders and colleagues and everyone could open our minds a little bit more to the fact that there are so many differences that we don't see and we don't understand, but they're here.
Right.
And how can we be more inclusive and be curious rather than judgmental when someone behaves differently than you might expect?
Okay, so this is intriguing to me. And so I just want to ask this quick question because I know we got to wrap it up soon. But is this a part of your work? Do you look at like people who are like sociopaths and that kind of stuff, their sensitivity? Because they would seem like they would be on the, that they have absolutely no sensitivity or caring or concern for, you know what I'm saying? For other people.
I do. So that it's an interesting question. It's not something that I know a lot about. I do know sociopaths are supposed to not have any empathy, right? That's one of the sort of foundational parts of the definition. Neurodivergent people tend to have very, very high levels of empathy. Now, it doesn't always show up in ways that non-neurodivergent people, if there are any, understand. There's actually something called the double empathy problem, where supposedly neurotypical people and neurodivergent people have trouble understanding each other's empathy or seeing each other's empathy.
Okay.
But yeah, part of the definition of a sociopath is that they really don't have empathy for other people at all. And therefore, their own agenda is, in a lot of ways, a sociopath is actually the opposite of a highly sensitive person, because for the majority, if not all, highly sensitive people and neurodivergent people, empathy is very high, and there is a sense of justice and social justice and fairness and other. That's a very big piece of our value system, and that's not true at all for sociopaths. So it's almost like opposite ends of a spectrum.
Right. That's what I thought. That's why I wanted to ask that question. I want to make sure that I had time to get that in. So one of the things you were going in a different direction that I definitely wanted to hear is you were going to talk about some of our gifts, some of the gifts of highly sensitive people. Let's get to the gifts, the blessings.
Okay. Let's get to the gifts. I love it. And then I want to get to the reading.
I do too. That's why I want to make sure. And I'm a talker, so I want to make sure we have enough time.
Perfect. I love it. Okay. So there are so many gifts. And I'm not saying that every highly sensitive or neurodivergent person has all of these, but they tend to come out and there tend to be patterns. So one of them is what we were just talking about, a deep sense of empathy and being able to see people and sometimes even feel people.
Yes.
Empaths, I know, is something that we talk about. So I'm an empath as well. Empaths can have different kinds of empathy, but seeing, feeling, understanding what other people are going through, whether it's physical or cognitive. Finding beauty in small things. So I've heard people say things like, I cry at a sunset or at a piece of art or a sad movie.
Right.
You know, I've cried at TV shows that are serious, you know, dramas where I really related to a character or was sad for something. But that's also like, I used to have an avocado tree right outside my window, and there were all these little birds that sat in the avocado tree. And literally that was my 5-minute break between meetings. I could just look, and 2 or 3 feet away, there were all these amazing little birds of different colors just fluttering around. So appreciating beauty in the small things that other people might miss. Connecting dots and data. One of the things that's true about highly sensitive brains and a lot of neurodivergent brains, we have fewer filters than non-sensitive brains. And what I mean by that is there's a data point that something like some brains process about 11 million pieces of information per second subconsciously. Only about 40 or 50 of those pieces becomes part of our consciousness, right? So that's a huge amount of filtering that's going on.
Right.
With highly sensitive brains, we have fewer filters. It's a structural thing. So we are downloading more information and processing more information. And that gives us often stronger intuition. We are connecting dots. We are being able to see several steps ahead and put things together that not everyone is able to sort of make connections around. Creative, out of the box thinking, you know, coming up with great ideas, brainstorming. Absolutely. That's a huge strength. And I'm looking over because I have some strengths from my work, some slides from the workshops that I just did that list.
I can see it.
Pattern recognition and system thinking. So that comes, I think, partially from all of that information we're downloading. That's a trait that is often associated specifically with autism, but many different types of neurodivergent brains can do that. Some of us are able to be both big picture and detail oriented, which is unusual because most people lean towards one or the other. And like all the things I'm talking about, being able to do that is both a gift and a challenge, right? Deep focus, hyper focus. So a lot of us can go really deep into something and just immerse ourselves in it and be able to do that if it's something we care about, and be able to really focus on it for a good chunk of time. And then the values driven aspect that I mentioned before, just being really caring about justice and fairness and being sensitive to our environments in a positive way and also in a negative way.
I think that's beautiful. I want a copy of that. Is that up on your website where people can go and look? Because every one that you've listed, I'm like, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me, and right there, that's me. But I love it. It sounds like gifts. It sounds so positive. Rachel, have you had a reading before?
I have not had a tarot reading for a very, very long time. I have some decks myself, and every once in a while I'll pull cards, but I love having other people read.
Okay, well, that makes it easier. So I don't have to do the kindergarten version. Not that I do that for other people, but I can. Rachel gets it. Rachel understands. So I've been sitting here shuffling, right? Okay. And I always ask people if they've ever had a reading before, because I just want to get a temperature check for what they know as well as what their concerns are. Just, and everybody's different. So I've been sitting here shuffling, and shuffling for me is my sign to spirit that I'm about to do a reading. It's also a way for me to clear the energy from any readings that I've done in the past, and a way for me to concentrate and focus while I'm listening to you and really tune in and tap into your energy, right? So that's what I've been doing, and I just know that you're amazing. So we gonna I always try to tap in and tune in and see what I'm gonna get before I pull a card. But I don't know. For some reason, I keep feeling like I don't feel money, but I feel the star. I don't know, but you that kind of like blow up, kind of huge energy. Your issue is the Four of Wands.
Okay.
So the Four of Wands is your main issue, your main thing that you're going through. And sometimes I often hear music or movies. So the Four of Wands as your issue, that's always my celebrate good times song. Celebration. You know, that what was that 70, 80 celebrate. I don't say
Yep.
anyway, but you know what I'm talking
Cool
about,
in a
Rachel.
gang, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
right. That's it, right? So this is the celebration of success, because the next card that you have is the Four of Pentacles. So we already have two fours, right? So
Okay.
the Four of Pentacles is my miser card. So whenever I receive the Four of Pentacles, I always tell people that's my go shopping card. That's my go shopping indication. But then, because unlike Rachel, I have no degrees in anything. This is the world according to Sharifa Hardy, and I just make it up, right? So I have to put disclaimers that doesn't mean to tell the people that Sharifa said, go buy that new Mercedes. That's not what I said. Okay. That's not
Yeah,
what I'm saying. What
that's not
I'm
happening.
saying is that she's holding on so tight to those pinnacles, and that pinnacles money is currency. It has to flow. It has to flow out. It has to flow in. And if you hold it in and you hold on too tight, then there's no flow. So I always say go shopping. It could be the 99-cent store. I don't know. Go buy a hot dog. I don't know, whatever. But the whole point is it's a sign to the universe. It's a sign to spirit that you trust, and that you know that there's more than enough. So you don't have to hold on to what you have. You can release it out into the universe, because the next card that you have is the Three of Swords. And so the Three of Swords is my card of sorrow, that there was some pain, that there was some loss, that there was some challenges that you went through. But the beauty in the Three of Swords is that whatever happened is over. It's done. And everything is out in the open. Everything is out on the table. There's nothing hidden. There's nothing that you can't see, because you can't hide something from a highly sensitive empath. That's going to be my new line that I took from Rachel. There are no secrets. You know, we can feel it. We can see it. We will dream it if we have to. So whatever happened, you know what you need to know, because this is the King of Pentacles. You become the King of Pentacles. And the
Oh, I
King
like
of Pentacles means that Rachel is my new BFF. Like, we besties now, you know what I mean? Because the King of Pentacles is rich. He holding on his money. He is stable. He is settled. He is the ruler of his land. And the thing about kings is that they are established, that they've went through the trials and tribulations to be able to create what they have. So that's a beautiful sign, because the next card I have for you is the Queen of Swords.
Okay.
And I'm gonna relate to us fellow Aries with Libra moms. This is the card for Libras, right? And this is my mom. That's what I said. Just the facts. Just the facts. Just the facts. Right. So this is either somebody, an aspect of yourself, or someone around you. And so the Queen of Swords, she does know her stuff. That's what I'm saying. It's not about her being wrong. She's right. But it's always an energy of, remember, whenever I get the Queen of Swords or the King of Swords, it's about remembering and understanding the difference between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, right? There is a difference. So yes, she may be right and it might be fair and this is what you're supposed to do, but have a heart. Have a heart for the people. Care about the people. Be a little sensitive to what the people. So in conjunction with you, I see it as someone who knows her industry. She knows what she's talking about, but sometimes it's just about delivering it in a certain way that other people can take it. Because the next card that you have is the Ace of Cups. It's so hard to see. I'm sorry about that, but
No.
it's
Okay.
the Ace of Cups. And the Ace of Cups, I love aces because aces is zero, and zero is infinite possibilities. It's unlimited possibilities, right? So with the ace and with cups, it's about self-love, falling in love with yourself. So in order to bring about that King of Pentacles energy, you have to fall in love with yourself. You have to be like, Rachel, you are a highly sensitive empath, but I love you, girl. That's the energy. I bet you never had a reading like this. You don't talk to yourself when you're doing your readings like this. But that's the energy of the Ace of Cups. It's just really about self-love, because before you can love anyone else, you have to truly fall in love with yourself, because the Empress is the next card that you have. And I always talk about this card. I think 3 shows ago, the lady got the Empress. And this is the really the only card in the deck that is meaning change for me. Like everything has evolved, grew as my life grew, as my understanding grew, as my experience grew, as my interpretation grew. But the Empress is the only card that has went to, I can't stand seeing that card, to, okay, I love it. That's one of my favorite cards, because the Empress is always symbolic of Mother Earth. So the Empress is the giver of life. But whenever I got the Empress, and I was like, oh, that's a pregnant woman. I'm like, I had 2 kids, and it always sounds fun in the beginning around, you know what I mean? Like, but around that 3rd trimester, when we now at 10 months, you like, if somebody don't get this baby out, I'm gonna take this baby out myself, right? So that was always the energy of the Empress, which symbolizes new life. But then I was doing a reading with my friend, and I told her, and she was like, no, Sharifa, that's Dawn. That's how I interpret people. She was like, no, Sharifa, whenever I see it, it means it's time. It's time for the baby to be born. It's time for the new life to come. It's time for whatever you want to bring forth to happen. I was like, you know what? I'll go ahead and accept that, because she is Mother Earth and she is the giver of life. So it's time for your fruit to be born.
I just got chills when you said that, and I love that.
See, that chills is the confirmation. We know. Everybody who's in that, they know. If you get the chills, that's the confirmation. The next card that you have is the Hangman. Major arcana, major lesson, major shift. So it's time for it to happen. But the Hangman says, chill out, hang out, look at it from a different perspective. Sometimes you have to look at things a different way from how you were looking at it before. Again, with the Hangman and especially the 4 of Pentacles and even Ace of Cups, it's about letting go for me. That's what I'm feeling like, letting go of what you think it is, or what you thought it was, or how you thought it was going to show up, or how you thought this story was going to go. Like I was telling you about the guy in the last show. I was so engrossed with his story. He's an excellent storyteller. It was amazing. And he was talking about the love of his life. They reconnected from high school 20, 30 years later. And then at the end of the story, she died. I'm like, that is not how this story is supposed to go. Like, I need a happy ending in this story, but there was no happy ending. So the beautiful thing is that you are the Empress. Your story is beautiful, but along the way, we have to look at it in a certain way in order to get it to where we need it to go. Ooh, I love this one. Ooh, I love people. Ace of Pentacles.
Love it. Oh, this is awesome.
So we was BFFs before, and then we was besties. Now we sisters. We just moved to sisters. Me and Rachel and I are sisters now, because if anybody is gonna get some money, is Rachel. Rachel just needs to understand not to give, send, pay the lady. That's because you got some money coming in. So the Ace of Pentacles for me is always the hand of God. Okay. It's always that gift, that blessing, because again, Ace is being unlimited. It's unlimited, right? But I also think of the Ace of Pentacles as my investor card, right? Not necessarily a person that invests, but it's because it's only one pentacle. So it's always that seed money. That seed money that comes in, that God, the hand of God blesses you with that seed, right? And people who know what they're doing, the Empress, they could take a seed. You a gardener, you plant, everything comes from one seed, and then it grows, and then it blooms, and then it goes out from there. So that for me is the energy of the Ace of Pentacles. But then I did a 10-card reading, 9 cards. But for me, I get to rambling, I get to talking, and I'm proud of myself. I did this pretty fast, because I think Rachel got it like telepathically, like she understood. what I was saying. I didn't even have to say nothing. I should have just showed Rachel the cards, right? But the 10th card is always the final outcome. At the end of the day, Sharif, for you to set all of that, what does Rachel need to know that she doesn't know? But she got two aces, which is new beginnings, and she got a whole lot. You can't get any more money than the King of Pentacles and the Empress and the Hand of God. So again, the final outcome is the King of Cups. The
Love it.
King of Cups. So you got two kings. Again, the King of Cups is always that great friend, that great person, that someone that you can talk to, someone who's there for everybody. The only challenge I see with the King of Cups in all of this, the King of Cups is the only one really that in the Four of Pentacles. Well, we're not gonna talk about that, but the King of Cups, because he often forgets about himself. So again, you got the King of Cups, and then you got the Ace of Cups. The King of Cups is always there for everyone else. They can help everybody else. They can listen to everybody else. They could talk to everybody else. But who does the King of Cups call? Who does he talk to? Right. So that's the only thing with the King of Cups. So there's an encouragement to, maybe there are people that you can open up to. Maybe you want to talk to somebody, because everything has to be balanced. And again, the Four of Pentacles shows me about not holding on too tight, releasing. Does that resonate with you?
Absolutely. I mean, in so many different ways, Sharifa. Thank you so much. There has been a lot going on in my life and my work over the past year and a half or so, and it has been really, really challenging. You had a card earlier on in the draw that said that there was that period of grief or loss.
Right.
There was a lot. It's been super challenging, and there's definitely been some money issues, and I have been very conscious of, you have to spend it to bring it back, and there has to be that balance. And it's funny because just before our call, I was invited to do a promotion for the ebook version of my book. And of course you have to pay to get into the promotion. So I was just about to do that, to pay to get, hopefully boost visibility and exposure. But I love I couldn't have asked for more. So we got the Ace of Cups and the Ace of Pentacles and the King of Cups and the King of Pentacles and the Empress. Many, many years ago, I was at a psychic fair in the San Francisco area, and I went with a friend, and I will never forget this. I was walking around looking at the different booths, sort of getting the bigger picture of who was there and what kind of readings were available. And I won a drawing, like I won a reading. It was a different kind of reading, but I walked up to somebody who was part of the fair to ask them where to go to get the reading. And she looked at me and she gave me this really strange look, and I couldn't figure out what the look was about. And she said, "Don't you know?" And I said, "No." And she goes, "Oh, I thought you worked here." I was like, no, I didn't. And then I went to another table and I was talking. There was a woman there who was offering readings, and I was talking to her, and she looked at me and she said, "You are the Empress." And I was like, whoa. At that point, I didn't know, as much as I know now, but it was just that I will never forget that whole experience. So it resonated when you pulled the card.
But what's so interesting again is that I don't really give the positions, you know what I mean? Because it doesn't, really help. First of all, we don't have that kind of time on any of the shows, right? But what's interesting to me is the Empress fell in how you see yourself. That was the position for me that it actually fell in. Is that's who you see yourself as. That's who you believe yourself to be, the Empress. So you already knew. So again, I tell people that, people read different. People do a lot of different things. And I can't say, always it has to be done a certain way, or this is right, or this is wrong. You want to stay away from that. But when I go to readers and they always say the cards say, the cards say, the cards say, I'm like, no, like I stay away from them, because the cards confirm, right? They confirm what your energy is already reflecting, the energy that you are putting out in the world. So the fact that you see yourself as the Empress is just confirmation that of who you are. Everything is just coming back to confirm. So do you have any questions for me? I love that story. And every show, I mean, every show is something that I'm like, that is so beautiful.
I love this. Do I have any questions for you? When am I going to meet the King of Pentacles?
I think you are the King of Pentacles.
Oh, am
And
I?
that's
Okay.
the message, is that you are, or he is around you. So if you haven't met him, then I would tell you, become him. When you become him, then the King of Pentacles will show up, because like attracts like, and what you are seeking is also seeking you, right? And so I always believe that if we operate at that frequency, that's what we will attract.
Mm-hmm. Agree with you completely. Do I have any more? I don't think I have any more questions. That was amazing.
So Robbie, hi, you have a question. What is your question? You got to type fast. You got to type fast. We're on the clock. So Robbie, I already know what question this. That's the highly sensitive in me, because it's going to be some question about them, or who they love, or are they going to get the job, or are they going to get the man, or are they going to get, and how. That's what the question is going to be. And so I'm gonna answer the question, since Robbie hasn't. Will I get a project in this month in my office? That was the question. Will I get a project in this month in my office? Well, Sarabi, right now, all my time and my attention is focused on Rachel. But if you go to my website at readmelive.com, I can look into it. But what I would say quickly, as far as, that's like 8 questions in one, because you want to know, will you get the project? Is it going to be in your office? And is it going to be this month? Right? So, if the project is in your office, then most likely you will get the project that's in your office. But the helpful part, I know I'm not being very helpful, I'm kind of being funny, but this is what I will tell you is the truth, is that time, there is no time. Time does not exist. There's only now. So I can't say if you're going to get it this month, next month, or when whatever it is, but focus on the now. Be the best you that you can be, and hold the highest frequency for yourself. And then you will create the possibility and the probability that you attract the highest good in your life, right? So if you want it this month, then I will focus on the now. I hope that helps. If not, again, like I said, visit my website at readmelive.com, because I got to go back to you in the studio, Rachel. I love that. We are coming down to the last few seconds of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to all the people who are listening live, as well as the people who are watching this in the archive, and let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance here today.
Thank you for that. What I would love for you all to take away is 2 things. One of them is, you have gifts. We all have gifts. And the more that you can focus on the things that are gifts for you, the more you will be able to thrive in your life. And the second piece of that is, try as much as possible to approach other people and the way they do things with a sense of curiosity rather than a sense of judgment. We all have different gifts and we all have different challenges. And the more we can really understand that and be inclusive of each other and each other's ways of doing things, the more we can all thrive. And God knows we need that in this life, in this world right now, more than ever before. So that's my message. And if you want to, can I just put in my contact information?
That's why I was coming back. I was like, where can they find the book, Rachel?
So absolutely. Again, the book is called Perceptive, and you can find it on Amazon. You can find it on barnesandnoble.com, and you can find it on bookshop.org. And you can find me, Rachel Radway, on LinkedIn or at rercoaching.com. Just my initials, rercoaching.com.
I love it. You're so welcome. I want to thank you for being today's guest on Read Me Live. I also want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch the show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives. I definitely appreciate your support. And if you want to be sitting right there where Rachel is for your own reading, visit my website at readmelive.com. Until next time, everyone have a safe and a blessed